Good morning, everyone. Wow, everybody got rest last night. That's great. It's going to be a great day. Well, I am so thrilled to welcome you, many of you, 11 years straight, to the wonderful, best congressional district in America, Rhode Island's first congressional district. And I am grateful, Rebecca, for that kind introduction. And I am even more grateful for the opportunity to represent the people here in Rhode Island on so many important issues of the day, and one of which is on all the challenges that you are collectively addressing over these next couple days and what you do every day. But of course, I want to acknowledge our convener, SENEDIA, who for 11 years has made this the place to be for leaders in defense, innovation, and development. You know, Defense and Innovation Days is special because of the convening power that brings together leaders in the defense industry, national security experts, government officials, to discuss that intersection, that critical intersection between technology and national security. And I truly believe that there's a historical vibe to being here in Rhode Island in particular, where we are known for our work in naval production, a reputation that has only grown to be more cutting edge as the years have gone on. But we're also proud here of our defense-wide production, supporting all branches of the military, from improving fuel cells for helicopters to developing advanced body armor to protect service members. And in Rhode Island and across the country, startups are partnering with established corporations to develop new technology solutions for what you know is a rapidly changing world. And as those new threats emerge, this is an opportunity to get ready. Now, as the vice-ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, I keep a close eye on threats and challenges around the world. I start out my weeks in Washington, usually with some sort of intelligence briefing that, ruins the sleep that Monday night, but is important to be focused on what the big task is for us collectively on the committee. Keeping a real close eye on those threats and challenges, from terrorist hotspots to wars that are percolating, these smaller ones that won't make a lot of news and print, but are integral to stability or instability across this world. And, of course, from my perspective, it's to help ensure that our diplomatic enterprise can prevent and deter conflict. Right? The value in your collective strength is that it will ultimately help us use other tools, that in our diplomatic arsenal and beyond, to prevent crisis, to prevent conflict. Now, unfortunately, over the last several months, we have seen, from my perspective, a change, but an inconsistent set of changes to our diplomatic posture, from a foreign assistance freeze to an illegal closure of USAID, things that undermine our global leadership and, I believe, ultimately our national security. And so while you may not immediately think of emergency food assistance, medical programs, or democracy building projects when you think about our national security, these programs are essential to preventing and deterring conflict. They are the other fist of strength that we possess in order to keep our world safe and stable. They lower the desperation and instability that lead to extremism and terrorism. They build goodwill with our allies. But this is why they are so important, because the sudden end to these programs can break promises to our allies, driving them into the arms of our adversaries, and makes them question our other agreements. It makes us less safe. It makes the burden even bigger on our defense capacities. And so I've been vocal on some of these cuts, condemning efforts to close USAID, my support for the Protect U.S. National Security Act, to reiterate that Congress has a leading role in and ultimately the power to change the structure of our foreign assistance work, and working to support litigation in this regard as well. Because I believe that we must continue to push back on these cuts to restore our foreign assistance programs, our work to feed starving children, to support American jobs, and ultimately build stability around the world. And, of course, the complement to that is continuing to act as a reliable ally by supporting our friends in their fights against authoritarian aggression. And, of course, at the forefront is Ukraine. I feel like when I was here last year, that was the focus as well. And, you know, I've met with many members of the Ukrainian parliament and members of the government, and I personally remain focused and committed in their fight to defend democracy. We must continue to provide weapons and defense material to combat Russia's unlawful, brutal, and really anti-democratic aggression. I'm proud to support and co-sponsor the Ukraine Support Act to shore up Ukraine's economy and military. And I'll keep calling on our president to impose sanctions and other economic restrictions on Russia until they stop the war against Ukraine. Now, while President Trump considers our role in the conflict, we need to continue to stay strong in our support of Ukraine and ensure that they have a seat, a real seat, not a seat after the meeting, a seat in the negotiation room, at the table. We cannot allow Putin to see advantage and a victory in his posture and his tactics and ultimately the result. We must draw on the great lessons from Ukraine when developing new defense technology, focusing on what technologies have proven effective and how we can utilize or counter them in future conflicts. For example, the deployment of unmanned systems, drones, other automated weapon systems that have been used heavily through the conflict, transforming what 21st century warfare looks like. Unmanned underwater vehicles have been critical in Ukraine's counterattacks against Russia's Navy. Our own Navy has used underwater drones to conduct dangerous and covert missions without putting our sailors directly at risk. And I'm focused on growing that inventory for our Navy. That's why earlier this summer, I led 2 amendments to the fiscal year 2026 Department of Defense Appropriations Act to support the development of underwater systems, some of which will be built right here in Rhode Island by companies here in this room today. And it's a big point of pride that we here in the 1st Congressional District across our state will be on the front lines in keeping our sailors safe. And I'm proud that both amendments passed the House, and I will continue to push for funding to be included in the final spending package. You know, these systems, these underwater, unmanned, autonomous systems will also play a key role in defense coordination with our allies in the Indo-Pacific, as you all know. They help us support our allies directly, monitor maritime activity, and keep China in check, where they will never, ever be able to exert dominance is the technological advantages and capacity that we have in the water, and we have to keep that going. And, of course, you're going to hear more from Dr. Erickson about China in a bit, and, you know, one of my first briefings I think I was a month in Congress, and it was very, very important to hear his perspective to set a foundation for my understanding of the importance of this work to this century. And we're not working in the Indo-Pacific alone. Right? We have the ongoing support of Australia and the United States through AUKUS. And I don't have to tell you that AUKUS is one of the most significant security arrangements in generations, prioritizing significant defense cooperation, emphasizing free trade and information sharing with our allies. AUKUS is about growing our national security capabilities and creating opportunities for our domestic industry to collaborate with our allies. And it has such enormous potential to boost our production and grow new jobs right here in Rhode Island and across New England. We must continue to support this work as we advance the priorities of Pillar 1. And as we look toward Pillar 2, we need to ensure that AUKUS works as effectively as possible to support coordination between our defense industrial bases. And that's why I was proud last week to introduce the bipartisan, bicameral AUKUS Improvement Act to streamline the approvals needed to operate within the AUKUS framework. My bill would remove duplicative approvals that slow down the AUKUS process and make it easier for our defense industrial bases to coordinate on advanced technology. Because ultimately, a strong AUKUS isn't just good for our national security and countering China in the Indo-Pacific. As I said, it's good for Rhode Island workers, good for workers throughout this region, across the country, and good for our domestic defense producers. And my hope today is that as you continue your discussions here at SENEDIA, you'll consider how closely we can collaborate with our partners in the UK and in Australia to meet the moment that we face. And if you have good ideas, share them with me. I look forward to seeing all of this impressive work. This is so important at this moment in our history. And being prepared, being future-oriented, being focused on the challenges of this moment, but the possibilities of tomorrow is what will keep our nation strong. So thank you for letting me be here with you, and I hope you have a great rest of your time this week.